Brittany,
Yes,
you're the only cousin older than I am.
I know, the oldest on both sides, my
How was
mom's and
that?
my dad's. Um,
Like, how was it
I'm
being the
sure,
oldest of our generation? Was there extra pressure, you think, or
I don't know if I felt extra pressure. I wish maybe like I could go back and maybe enjoy it a little more because, the firstborn or the first, grandchild or whatever, they're always the most spoiled, because it's the first.
true, true. It's the
So,
first and the
I'm
last.
sure yeah, I got, spoiled, beyond measure, I'm sure, but I wish I could remember. But I don't really feel like there was like pressure. I mean, maybe, you know, being the oldest out of like my brother and sister, being someone to look up to for them,
Hmm.
kind of be an example and
Take
try
the
to do the
role
right
as like
thing and lead.
leader of the siblings.
Yes, exactly. But besides that, I didn't feel like there was like added pressure really.
That's nice. That's really nice. And you guys, you grew up mostly in Yuba City, right?
Yeah, we lived in Salinas until I was gonna be in like the fourth grade, and that's when we moved to the city. So yeah, I pretty much lived my whole life there.
Hmm. Was that a jump, or was that about the same for you?
Would you say a jump?
There was a big difference between Yuba City and Salinas,
Oh, I don't know about that. It's hard to remember a lot
right?
of
Fourth
my
grade.
life in Salinas. I remember a lot of hanging out at like, grandma and papa's with
Hmm.
all you guys and stuff
Fun
like that
stuff.
and getting together with family. Yeah, all those fun memories. But I can't really say like I noticed like a huge difference. Obviously, it was kind of sucky to move away from my friends I had at the time,
Hmm.
but Yuba City, it's a small town. It's not somewhere I would ever want to live again, but I mean, it wasn't the worst place ever. There wasn't a whole lot of things you could do to get into trouble, so that was probably the best situation too, staying out of
Hmm.
trouble.
Hmm. And you met in Yuba City, your husband now?
Yeah, so I actually met him through one of my best friends, Fenny. Her husband
Hmm.
and him, they worked together at Beale Air Force Base, which is kind of like by Marysville. And I actually met him for the first time on base. So yeah,
Hmm.
he lived in
Why were
Marysville at
you
the time,
there?
but why was I on the base?
Yeah.
So Fenny, she actually came over to like my parents' house on 4th of July. And she said that she was going to go out to base and go to her house, and I hadn't seen her because at this time I lived in Chico, so it had been a while since I saw her. And she just asked if I wanted to come with. And I had known about Justin. She like sent me a Snapchat, and I was like, oh, who's that cutie?
He's
Um,
always been like so attractive. Good for him.
I know. So then, like, I knew we were going to go out there and I was going to see him. So that's why I wanted to go. And she went out there to go see her husband because they were both working at the time.
Ah.
So we went there and that's how I met. And everything's history from there.
Hmm. How long was the dating for you guys?
Not long. It's funny because you never really like understand when people say when you know until you're in that situation because we literally were talking, I guess, for 2 weeks before we both said that we loved each other.
Hmm.
So we started dating after 2 weeks of knowing each other. And then after 7 months of being together, he proposed. And then he left for a 7 month deployment. And when he came back, we went to the courthouse and got married 2 days
Hmm.
later.
When you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely just one of those things.
I feel like it's difficult for some people to grasp. And I've talked to guys who are like not happy in their marriages, and
Hmm.
you get a tone of it's almost as if they never knew, but they ended up being married to this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
It's
maybe they almost felt like they
yeah,
were too far in, like they were stuck, and that's just how it happened, and now they're unhappy.
yeah. It's almost like they did the steps that they were supposed to, and they got married, and maybe they had pressure from family or even pressure from the person that they married. But like it's almost like they forgot that they're married to the person that's their best friend that they love.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes the traditional path isn't always the right path,
Hmm.
because mine and Justin's path was not traditional at all. Like I said, we literally went off to a courthouse, got married, and called it a
Well,
day.
for
So
military marriages, it's actually not too off base.
I know, yeah, that's the thing. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, would you just get married young because he's in the military? And I don't, I mean, granted, that's what it looks like, but it
Well,
wasn't the case. We genuinely, did love
of
each other and
course.
wanted to get married. And a wedding to me was very like a stressful thing. It's not
Mm.
something that I was like upset to not have. Like, even if I could go back, I still wedding.
I think because I was pretty young and I was like, oh, Brittany's getting married. I would have loved to go. So I was like the
Yeah.
cousin that was like, oh, there wasn't a wedding, so that's too bad. But I got a lot of secondhand annoyance from grandma. I think she was a little
Oh,
not
I'm
upset
sure.
in an angry way, but like upset, like, oh, dang, my first grandchild didn't have a big wedding, like
I know, and my mom was upset too. So was, Justin's mom. They were upset. And the only
Mm,
thing I think I would have changed is if maybe I would go back and like still would have wanted to get like eloped in a way, but maybe
mm,
told people like, hey, we're gonna go away in 2 weeks. We're gonna go get married. If you want to come, come. If you don't, you don't, but we're not having a wedding.
mm,
So if anything, that's maybe what I would have changed to like at least tell people and give them the opportunity to have come.
mm,
But at the same time, for me, a marriage isn't based on a wedding day. It's based on,
mm.
the relationship between you and the other person.
So how many? You have one boy now, right, and one on the way.
I went one boy and one on the way.
Oop, sorry, getting call. We'll turn that off. Uh, so you have one on the way. How old is the first one?
He is one. He was a Christmas baby, so he just turned one
Ooh,
last month. Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah, it was
I hear
the one day.
mixed feelings on people who have Christmas birthdays or birthdays even around Christmas. Because yeah, it's fun because part of it's their day, but also you're getting presents either way.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel bad because it's definitely the one day I did not want to have him. I wanted to at least be not on Christmas Day, but as soon as they told me my due date was December 21st,
Hmm.
I was like, I'm gonna have him on Christmas because that's just my luck. And I'm sure he'll hate it when he gets older, but I'm gonna blame it on him.
No matter what Christmas party he goes to, it's his own birthday party.
Exactly. So hey, gonna have to deal with it.
There's pluses. I feel
Yeah.
like that makes it like if you went to a Christmas party and you were looking for someone like to make friends with or like looking for someone to date, you automatically make yourself a little bit more interesting by it being your birthday that day.
Right? Conversation starter.
Yeah, boom. And a lot of people meet like their significant others at parties like that.
Yeah, right.
Hmm.
Hopefully he'll be that person. Hopefully he won't get like the shy introverted thing from me. He'll get a little more outgoing.
Were you shy and introverted growing up?
Well, yeah, yes, very. I am less
Interesting.
less of that now. More of just because I tend to stop caring so much about what other people think. And I think part of it was when I was in middle school, I got made fun of a lot. And I always was like fearful of what people were thinking of me, what they were gonna say. So I was very introverted, didn't want to like the second a teacher would say, we're gonna have a presentation in this class. I would legit almost have a heart attack because I did not want to get up in front of people and talk.
Hmm.
And I'm very, even now, it's hard for me to like step outside
It's
of
so
like my
hard.
comfort zone and try to talk to people.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm much better now, but it was a lot worse when I was younger.
It's that's really interesting because my perception of you was always that you were like a party animal or something like that.
Really?
But I mean, also I was in the same boat. Probably much. I was really, really, really shy, and I didn't have a lot of friends. And I just kind of assumed with how cool you were that you must have been a
Yeah, I
party
definitely
animal or
wasn't cool.
something.
I definitely wasn't cool. I would say, I
Of
mean,
course you were. I thought you were.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. That's all that matters. Whatever my family thinks of me is important.
Yeah, and I think Justin's cool too, and you guys have a nice little family going on there, so that's
Oh,
fun.
thanks. I appreciate it.
Hmm. So when your son is getting married, essentially, what tips from your marriage would you give to him in your specific
Definitely
situation?
in my specific situation. I would have to say, it's a give and take. You don't be in a relationship with somebody who always wants to take and you always have to compromise. There
Mm.
needs to be that on both sides
Mm.
for a healthy relationship. Definitely always put God first. And um, that's kind of like I feel like the big things.
Mm.
Communication is really important,
Mm.
when you're upset about something or something's got you, got your brain racking, you talk about it. Don't let it fester because it
Right.
gets worse,
I feel the same way about not letting it fester.
Yeah,
Cause
because it doesn't help anything, and then you
right.
explode, and it's just not a good
Yeah, I'm
situation. So
always afraid.
communication is important.
I feel like I've seen a temper in my father growing up, and that I saw in myself too. And then, but the more you like are very aware of your temper, the more you actually consider it, the less you can, the more you can not let it flare up.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like,
exactly.
and
Yeah, if
that, but
you're
you have to
aware
do
of
things
things,
like you were talking about. Like you have to actually have the conversations.
yeah, you have to do the hard things. Can't
And
ignore.
and the hard things are really hard.
Yes, very hard, but nothing worth having comes easy.
God, I remember doing communications class at George Fox, and I remember going up front, and I was trying to be, you try to be the person that's comfortable up there. You try to make yourself not freak out.
Which is so hard.
And I remember freaking out up there, and I remember the only thing I could think of besides the words coming out of my mouth were how I really wish that everyone's heads just exploded and I wouldn't have to do this anymore.
That is me too. I was literally petrified every time I had to go up
Oh
and talk in
man.
front of people. And I would be like the one that's like shaking and talking fast. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I look like that person
Yeah.
who's so distraught.
That's how I felt when I start, because on YouTube I've actually been posting where I'm reading this book, and I realized that first of all I don't read enough, and second of all reading out loud is a lot different than reading to yourself.
Oh, totally. I
Like
don't read enough either, but I'm
it's
starting to.
yeah, and I think that that's going to be a lifelong thing. It's always going to be like I
Yeah.
could read more than I'm reading right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but in any case, reading out loud is actually really difficult, especially the book I chose, which is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And it's like it jumps between philosophical ideas, him on a trip with his friends, and detailed explanations of how motorcycles work. And some of that stuff is really easy to say. It's really easy to talk about him and his friends just hanging out, essentially. But then he he gets into like it was one chapter was basically reading a textbook on how a motorcycle works. And that was like, and then I was like, oh wow, I am not good at speaking. I got to do this more often.
Well, and then it's like it's foreign to you. You're not,
Right.
familiar with the subject, so you're also trying to like make sense of what you're reading while you're reading it.
Mm,
But yeah, I totally feel like I read a lot faster in my head than I do out loud.
I do for sure, and I feel like I get about half as much out of it when I read out loud.
Yeah, same.
But like I also, because one of the things that Piper was telling me that she remembers growing up, and that I'm trying to take to heart, is that she remembers her mom reading her books when she was young, when she was little. I can't remember my dad reading me books growing up, and I can remember my mom, and those were lovely times. But I don't think my dad read to us much. And
I
I
feel like
would
I
love
remember it
to go
vaguely.
to bed reading a book to them, to have them fall asleep while I'm reading something to them. But I know if I'm uncomfortable with speaking, then I that's not going to work out very well. And I want to be comfortable enough to show them that uh, public speaking is acceptable and you can get good at it.
Yes, absolutely. You can get good at anything that you set your mind to.
Hmm.
Practice makes perfect.
Oh man, the process sucks. It's always
I
like
know.
I'm gonna run more next week. I'm gonna run all week, and you do it, and then you're like, okay, next week I'm gonna do the same thing, and you're like, oh god, that's a week of running now, and I
Oh
know what
yeah,
that
I
feels
know.
like. And so you do
Yeah,
it,
and
and I
it's
did
not
that for a
fun.
couple weeks, and then I let it slip to the side, and I got to keep running again.
Yeah, it's so easy to just fall
Hmm.
back into old habits. I'm trying to not do that, but I'm currently in that vicious cycle.
Yeah, dude. I think it's one of those things that you just kind of gotta accept that this is the kind of this is how it works. You know.
You want it bad enough, you'll do
Right.
it. If you
Yeah.
don't, you'll find an excuse not to.
Yeah, it's like you gotta accept that you you could do whatever you want if you really wanted it, but like things
Absolutely.
get in the way.
Yes.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 21,
Hmm.
so young, definitely.
Oh well, me too. I wasn't
Yes.
21,
Oh,
but
you were 21?
I was 23.
Yeah, still young.
Still
I
very
feel like a
young, but
lot of
about the same.
people in this day and age don't get married until they're in their like later 20s almost.
I think about it a lot, and I think it's pros and cons.
Yeah.
Pros and cons. Like the cons are obviously work related.
Yes.
when you get into a relationship that early on, you're still developing what you're going to do for your life.
Yeah,
Uh,
finances can be difficult, and you're
right.
also maturing, and the other
Yeah.
person is maturing. So you're having to
Mm,
work through a lot of those things together, not just on your own,
yeah.
and almost having to discover who you are with another person, you know?
I was listening
So
to
it can be challenging.
a Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking to another comedian.
I love
Comedian,
him.
I know he's amazing. He was talking to, I love him. I'm blanking on his name. It's the Mark Norman, and Mark Norman was talking about how just a general fear that everybody seems to have about marriage. It's that I'm gonna change, and I'm not sure that uh, I'm if whoever I marry is gonna be able to handle it. So it's like recognition that I'm going to change, but like that scares them into not wanting a long-term relationship.
Yeah, and I understand that because it can
Yeah.
be difficult when you change because,
Mm.
your personality can become different, what you believe in can be different, what you stand for.
Mm.
But in the same aspect, the person, like your spouse or whoever, they can also change. So you have to be willing to accept them, not only if they change, but just as much as you want them to accept you if you change. So it's difficult. That's why marriage is hard.
Marriage is hard.
And I definitely feel like obviously divorce rates are very high, and I
Scary.
feel like it's, yeah, scary high. And it's sad. And I just feel like maybe it's because people just aren't willing to put in the hard work. They're not as
Mm.
dedicated or loyal to that relationship as they
Mm.
thought they were. So I feel like it can be difficult.
I think it usually comes down, and this is just my opinion, I think it usually comes down to lack of communication.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
which is why that's going to be a piece of advice to my son when he gets married. Communication
exactly.
is very important.
That's it. That's something that's really easy to forget too, because it's one of those things where it's like going for runs. You get comfortable, and then you stop talking about what you're thinking about to your partner because you want to watch a movie or something with them.
It's easier
And
not to
then
talk about it.
yeah, and I know in a lot of marriage counselings, one of the things that you kind of tell the other person is try to date them again, get to know
Yes.
them differently than you knew them just before. Like you forgot that you guys are two individuals and floating on a big rock. Remember that, and remember that you love this person.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Remember why you married the person in the first place.
yeah. Hmm.
Which is, easier said than done when things can get rough. So I understand, but hopefully, if you have good communication, it will
Hmm.
never get to that point.
Hmm. How do you feel about Jeremy and Brianna? Jeremy and Brianna, his fiance.
Um, haven't really gotten to know her that well. We did get to go to Idaho, and we were there for a week together, so that was nice. I know that there have been like some issues as far as like between them and with our family, and us all mixing well together.
Hmm.
Um, but I think she's sweet, but I guess I don't know. I don't see them together enough. I feel like
Hmm.
to make like um like a definitive,
Hmm.
like I can't tell you, or like to give a definitive answer.
Especially nowadays, it's really hard to just hang out with them. You know.
Exactly. And I feel like I'm always busy, and sorry, I'm
Hmm.
always busy. So
And then so is
it's
he.
hard to give a definitive answer. Exactly. Everyone gets caught up in life. And so I think she's sweet, and I hope, and every time I talk to him, he says that he's very happy,
Hmm.
which is important to me as long as he's
Hmm.
happy, So
I
I
talked to
hope
them and
it
they
all
seem pretty
works out.
happy, so I'm
Yeah,
excited.
they seem happy together,
They
which
just
is what
saw a
matters.
venue the other day.
Yeah, I think he was telling me about that.
Yeah, so I'm excited. It's really coming together now.
No, it is excited
Mm-hmm.
or exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Okay, real quick then, give me 10 things that you're grateful for.
Okay. 10 things. Number one, Jesus Christ and my faith. Those two kind of go together. Two, my family. Always so thankful for them. Um, my friends. I'm thankful that I'm in nursing school right now. I worked really hard to get where I am, and trying to enjoy every second of it, even in this pandemic and having to be online. So I'm
Mm.
thankful for that. Um, Fifth one, definitely my health, and the health of my friends and my family, because that's something a lot of people take for granted. Just the fact that we're able to get up out of bed and walk and talk and take care of ourselves, is a blessing. Um, I'm thankful for um, the opportunity that Justin and I have had this past year, and are still going to have the year ahead of us, to be able to both be home to raise Carson, and to raise our next baby that's coming. We've been blessed financially to be able to both not have to work and be at home. So very
Mm.
appreciative of that. Yeah, got to spend getting to spend a lot of time together. And let's see, the seventh one um, would definitely just be um,
It's so easy
my
to run out. You got to like start thinking about it. What am I grateful for?
I know, I'm like, there's so many things I'm grateful for, but I'm
Yeah.
like, what can you know what I mean? Like, I
Let's
don't
go
even know.
small.
I'm
Let's
I'm
go small.
thankful for the new.
What did you eat today that you liked?
Um, what did I eat today? I know, I'm like, I eat a lot of things. I ate some cereal. I ate,
How about the cereal? Was it
raisin.
good? Was it acceptable?
It was good. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was Cocoa Krispies, so
I bet you're
good.
grateful that every morning you can have cereal if you wanted.
Yeah,
You're
I was gonna say the next thing, I was like, I'm thankful for the food that I have, the house
mm,
that I live in, the car that I drive. Like, those are all
mm,
blessings to have those things. A lot of
mm,
people don't have those things.
mm-hmm.
I'm definitely
Struggle.
thankful and grateful for my pregnancy, the new baby that's
Mm,
gonna be on the so thankful for that.
mm.
I am, let's see,
How about one more?
one more. Oh, I'm thankful for being able to this last year have been able to go on vacations, because Justin and I
Mm.
haven't been able to go on those like hardly ever since we've been together, and we went on two or three this last year. So that was really nice. And we are gonna go on vacation again in a few months. So I'm grateful
Mm.
for that.
Mm. Where are you gonna go?
Idaho again.
Hell yeah!
So we went, I know, we just
Beautiful.
honestly we love it. We love it. And it's so beautiful up there. It's so gorgeous. And honest, I know it sounds probably like cheesy, but literally when we're there, it feels like our home away from home.
And what
Like
do you guys
it's
like to do out
just
there?
um so the first time we went, which was last summer, that city in North Idaho, which is Coeur d'Alene, is where we go. It's very centered around outdoor activities. So when we went
Mm.
there, then we went kayaking. That's the first time I
Oh, I
ever
love
went.
kayaking.
Yeah, I never
I
went, and it
have
was
my
actually
own.
really fun. Did you really?
Yeah, I have one. We're going tomorrow.
Oh, that's awesome. I know Justin wants to get his own. He wants to go
Do it.
too, but
You can. I bought mine with a paddle off a guy for $200 out of his garage.
no, you didn't. That's
Yeah,
so cheap.
yeah, it's really cheap. You can actually get, and that was a good quality, like not a great quality one, but a good quality one. You can get
Oh,
even cheaper
wow.
ones off of like Big Five or something. Although be careful with those; they're not exactly high quality. And if you do go out with them, make sure you wear a life vest. Yeah, because I
So
wouldn't
basically, you
trust
might
those at
tip
all.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
We're
I
definitely going to look into it.
definitely, definitely, especially if you like outdoor stuff.
Yeah, and it was really nice just going out there and hiking, even just walking around downtown. Like, there's just a lot of outdoor things to do over there. But even when we went just last month, when it was snowing, like, we went sledding, we went on like a gondola ride, we went on this
Ooh.
like Christmas type, like New Year's cruise that they had, where they did fireworks at the end and stuff. So it was really
Mm,
cool. Yeah, I really
that's
liked it.
nice.
And yeah, we're going in a few months with Justin's parents because they haven't been out there yet.
Mm.
And we're actually getting an Airbnb. We got an Airbnb that's going to be on the lake, so that'll be really cool.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, it'll
I
be
love
nice.
going to lakes.
Yes, me too.
I don't think I got to see you at the family lake trip last time. Did I?
I don't think so. We
I
were
don't think
only
so.
there for like a day or two because I think we were moving. And I
Oh.
was pregnant
Do you remember
too.
the time when
So
you came to camp and you had a tattoo and like you couldn't go do any swimming stuff?
yes, I do remember that. And it was kind of a bummer, but I was also pumped about my tattoo.
Right.
So
What is that tattoo? What does it look like?
Oh, what was that one? Where did I get? I don't even remember. I have like a lot now. Was it on my ribs?
I
Maybe it was on
I
my
I
arm.
remember it being on your arm. It was either your upper bicep or it was your forearm.
Oh, I think it's oh, so it probably was my upper bicep. Ugh, that's
What is
like the
that one?
tattoo I hate the most,
Oh
you know? The first.
no! But you were
I
pumped
know
about it.
because I know I was pumped about it, but now that I know it's that one, not pumped.
What's a better
So
one than
it's
a better one than that?
um so I really like the one that's up on my shoulder. It was one of it actually has like a few different flowers. One of
Mm,
them is for Justin's birth month. The other one is just a rose, and then the other one is I think the golden poppy for, California because I was
beautiful.
born and raised here.
That's what
And
Piper
then
wants. She wants
oh
lupin
really?
and poppies.
Oh nice. Yeah, I really like it. And then my other one is I have a Bible verse on my ribs, which
What
is
verse?
Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's funny because I got that like maybe a few days after I met Justin, and come to find out later, he has that same verse tattooed on his arm, but I didn't know
Wow.
it at the time. So now we kind of have that in common.
Wow, really interesting. That's really kind of crazy that that actually happened.
Right? I
Yeah.
know. I was just like, what? I'm like, huh, what a coincidence.
I guess that's kind of a main theme in the Bible.
Absolutely.
It's been a long time since I've been Christian, I'd have to say. I would say I was questioning for a really long time. When I got married to Piper, it was kind of at the tail end of my Christianity. And then
And
and not because of her, but because of my own changing process, I eventually just had to move away from it because it was just not something I
and
could
I
work
was
with anymore.
I heard that when I listened to, the podcast you did with my brother and my sister.
Hmm.
So what led you to basically not believing anymore?
Well, first of all, I feel like it was you can't make it work literally, and I was raised in a non-denominational church, and so the instructions were basically, we are gonna live, we're gonna teach you that the Bible is, we're gonna be Bible based. We're gonna start if it says it happened in the Bible, it happened. So it was more of a literal sense of the Bible. So as far as I was concerned, you had to have all of the supernatural belief system involved to be a Christian, and
Like you had to
and
believe
I'm
there's a God and
and the literal
right.
thing like the 6,000 years, that sort of thing, a flood that covered the entire earth, so all of it, and Jesus's death and resurrection. And I mean literally, not just like Jesus died figuratively and then came back to life metaphorically. It's like you actually have to believe that a human being passed away and then came back to life,
Absolutely.
and then passed into heaven, and that was the essential thing. And not only did you have to believe that, you have to believe the other parts too as well. It's like, I believe that Jesus did that physically, and he did it for my sins. That's why I'm going to be able to live in eternity after death.
Yes.
So, and I don't have a big problem with anyone believing it. It's not a problem for me that people have uh, that sense of religiousness. It's just I can't for the life of me understand how you can believe, with what we know now about how the world works, that you can believe the supernatural parts of the Bible. I don't understand how we can get to a point where we do believe that the flood covered the whole earth less than 6,000 years ago, and geologists are literally every single one of them wrong about the ground and how many years these layers came from. I don't see how we can deny the existence of evolution, which is proven in so many different facets of life, that literally science entirely is based on it, biology especially, and all of medicine is essentially running off of the theories that were started in the scientific community. Not only that, but all the fact that we can test mice and we know that it'll work is directly because of we were once the same creature. That's not really debatable anymore. We have to take these things as literal truth. And if the world was evolutionarily created, or life, excuse me, as we know it was evolutionarily created, there's no way that a all powerful supernatural being would have accepted that, would have created us then, because the chimpanzee world, which would have been similar to us, is so rough and so terrifying, and they don't have language, that it strikes me as unlikely that God would have spoken to something like that and then kept bringing us to where we are now.
So with evolution, I have looked into a few articles and things that talk about evolution, what they believe and what they've studied to try to explain how the world started.
Me too.
And there's no, if you read it too, it also says there's no definitive and absolute proof that the theory of evolution, which is exactly what it is, it's a
It is.
theory,
It's correct.
which means it's, you know what I mean? It's not a
Mm-hmm.
proven fact of that's how the world started.
Right.
So you basically have to have faith in
Yeah.
the scientists that what they are saying is true and that's how we came to be. So basically you're putting your faith in the scientists rather than putting your
Mm-hmm.
faith in God, you know? And I
That's a thing that I wouldn't agree with. I think that believing in science is believing in the process by which we come to opinions, but believing in the process of logic. And that's not to say that it's correct, the conclusions that they came to, but it is saying that I believe that if it were true, there would be enough evidence to support it. And considering that there isn't enough evidence to support it, that's why it's not believed. Not because
there's actually
scientists
a
say
lot of
this, so I'm
science.
listening to scientists. It's more of, I believe in the process by which scientists live.
Okay, and there is actually a lot of scientific evidence
A
that
lot
points to
is
a lot of
relative.
things in the Bible that are true. A lot of things that
I agree.
there's no way that these people back thousands of years ago would have been able to predict this had God
Mm,
not told them that's how the things are. So
mm-hmm.
if you try to search for God using only logic, reason, science, you're never going to find him. You have to have faith. There's a lot of things in this life where you have to have faith in. And, you
Interesting.
know, Martin Luther King Jr. and Albert Einstein both agreed that religion and science, like they complement each other. And you
Well,
can't have one
Albert
without the
Einstein was
other.
actually Christian. I believe
Interesting.
he at least believed in God. Albert, yeah. The
And
interesting thing
they
about
both,
Albert Einstein is that he was one of the top physicists or mathematicians at the time. That was so much so that we know him so well today, and he believed in God for sure. The interesting thing about him, though, is he was wrong on some major theories that he had in his process. At the end of his career, he actually had huge ideas that ended up being entirely wrong. Like one of them was he didn't believe black holes existed. And now we actually have a picture of one. So it's really interesting that no matter how smart or how important those people are, it doesn't really mean that what they're saying is correct. We really do have to break down what they're saying to a really fundamental level to really take anything out of it.
well, in my whole reason for saying that wasn't just to be like, oh, these two people, like
Oh,
their
I know.
status, we should believe what they're saying. It was more just like religion and science, they complement each other. They don't really fight, they don't fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like religion fills in the holes that science doesn't have an answer for.
Science is
And
definitely about looking at what's here in front of us. It's not really necessarily thinking about. It's. I feel like spirituality is kind of like. It's thinking about the stuff that you can't immediately prove. You know,
yeah,
and science is
again,
more
that's where
like
kind
saying
of
that
faith
I'm only
comes
going to
in.
believe in the things that I can immediately prove.
Yes, but you know, if you're trying to say that they're like it, that you have to make sure or you have to prove everything in the Bible
Hmm.
is fact or there has to be evidence for it, otherwise it's not true. Well, there's a lot of things in this world and a lot of
Hmm.
things that scientists don't understand
Oh yeah.
that we just believe to be true. And there's a lot of mistakes that scientists have made and they
Mm-hmm.
can like, I mean that's why you see oh journal edition 2, edition 3,
Yeah.
edition 30 because they
Updates.
have to keep correcting their mistakes. You know what I'm
Interesting
saying?
though, and this is not a zing trying to be rude here. Interesting though that each journal has never led in towards the direction of saying that there potentially was a supernatural creator.
Yeah, I know.
You
And
know what I'm
I
saying?
feel like
And I'm not
it's
saying that it may have been mentioned as potentially a possibility in a footnote, but never would be something that would be taught in a lesson in a textbook.
yes, and I agree with that. And I
Mm.
think it's funny that scientists are so apt to disprove God and disprove the Bible. Um, and I feel like
Mm.
Christianity is the one religion that is under attack the most.
Well,
Like,
I disagree
it's
with
funny.
that. Definitely. I feel like Islam was worse than Christianity.
Yeah, but in our society, at least, you don't hear anybody trying to tear down
Yeah, you're
Islam
correct.
because, you know what I'm saying? Because then that would be discriminatory and that would be, not okay to do
Mm.
that against that religion and those people.
Yeah.
But Christianity, people are hyper focused
The
on
sheer volume.
that religion to disprove it, and they're determined to destroy it. People want to take God's name out of everything, out of the Pledge of Allegiance. They get
I
offended and
like
they
that
get
it's in there.
threatened by the name of God. And but they don't get threatened by any other religion's
Mm.
gods or that they worship. And the Quran, they believe that Allah and God created all things as well, but scientists don't try to disprove the Quran. They just talk about the Bible.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
that's just signaling to the activists, really, is what all that is nowadays. The reason that it's not questioned. Someone like Christopher Hitchens, who was like an anti-theist to the highest degree you can possibly go, was extremely against Islam, more so than he was against Christianity, and he was against both. But it's even just something simple like, okay, I first of all, I was Christian, and I believed it for so long, and it's still,
Yeah.
I love those stories. Like, I'm not knocking that. There's so much good in that book. From the very beginning, it says man and woman created equal. That is the thing that it is consistent with for most of the Bible. There are parts of it where it's not, and I could talk about those. But for the most part, the falling back on the idea that both are equal is really lovely. And the most it even says is, or one of the smaller differences that I would say is like men wear men's clothes and women's wear women's clothes. It's
Yes.
it's like that's more of a thing that's like they're different, but that doesn't mean anything about just inequality. They're the same. It's just that women happen to wear this and men happen to wear this. In this case, but Islam, I don't know how on a basic American freedom level you can even say Islam is acceptable. The fact, because like yarmulkes are one thing, but yarmulkes aren't really for modesty's sake. It's more of to signal that Jewish people are Jewish. Uh, uh, Burqas, on the other hand, are on every level sexist towards women.
Yeah, no, my point was based, like, at least here in the United States,
Oh, right.
I don't hear Islam being attacked like Christianity.
You're right.
You know what
America,
I'm
most people
saying?
are Christian, so that's the one you hear the most of. But also, it's the most. That means you hear the most positive reinforcement of Christianity as well.
Yes.
Yeah. That was.
And so,
I think that because so in a sense, for in the medical field, no matter what, you're going to be listening to doctors. In fact, if the doctor says that something is a certain way, you might get a second opinion, which is definitely recommended in serious cases. But ultimately, two people telling you that something is the truth is enough for you to believe that it's the truth, and to actually live your life as if it's the truth. And with the scientific community, there are so many more than two who have studied these subjects and come to the same conclusion. And it's not that they are correct in every way that they've in everything that they say, but at the same time, the sheer volume of people saying that no, there's no way to prove what you're saying, there's not even really any evidence supporting it, is really interesting to me, because that would suggest to me, and that's one of the reasons why I came away from Christianity, that is the Bible as a literal truth in anything, in any of its, in any way, it couldn't be possible. And that means that that opens up different avenues. For instance, that opened up the avenue for my relationship with Jordan Peterson, who is an evolutionary biologist and a psychologist, and also an avid Christian. And like an avid Christian, a wonderful man, like who definitely is one of the few people I would see that genuinely in every facet of his life lives by what the Bible says. And that is an interesting thing. And that opened up a world where I can now believe in all of what the Bible says, because I do. And essentially, if I accepted that Jesus actually lived and died and rose again, then I would actually still be Christian, because I'm not living my life in an anti-Christian way. Most people live their lives in a Christian way. It just comes down to that one fact, is the thing that Christians believe that are holding people outside of their own faith, when really it seems pretty similar. You know?
yeah,
A
I mean,
non-Christian isn't going to be murdering anyone. Everyone accepts that that's wrong. the only people that don't accept that that's wrong, we actually, even outside of Christianity, still view them as psychopaths or crazy people.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting that that's true. And him talking and like breaking down what he thought about the Bible and from his perspective from an evolutionary biologist is really, really, really interesting. And after this, I'll definitely send you some links that are really good videos. Because it's, for the first time ever, it was like, oh, okay, it all fits. It all fits if that means that I have an understanding about what Christianity is, and that doesn't make it any less complex. It's just I do have to shift how I view the world, because for a long time I viewed the world as created by a deity. I viewed it as, so here's an interesting thing. Strawberries are not fruits. They are a package, they're a stem with a bunch of fruits on the edges of it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the one hand, looking at a strawberry and how interesting that is, because it's not just evolutionarily it got to that point because there was a section of its stem that had a bunch of fruit on it that was successful, and then so that plant propagated more. And so then that stem may have gotten like a reddish color, and then that helped it propagate more until eventually it developed these little packages of a bunch of different fruits around the edges of it. And that was so successful that now today we can go to a store and pick up a bunch of them and eat them and enjoy them, and they're delicious. The process to get to that point is so interesting but Christians don't look at strawberries that way. Strawberries are any other fruit. Strawberries are just a fruit. I would, as a Christian, I would say that strawberries are delicious and it's really interesting that they're this way, but any way is equal to any other way. But wherein the fact is, with this one, no, this one is really interesting for that reason. And I couldn't see that when I was Christian because of the viewpoints that I grew up with. And I thought that was really interesting. The process of evolution itself.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that evolution is not a thing, because it is.
Most Christians would believe in, at least a basic level, microevolution.
Absolutely. I just don't believe in like the macroevolution that somehow there happened to be this pond in this thermal vent that had exactly what it needed to have a microorganism crawl out and eventually bring us into the world we are now.
Yeah, no,
As hard, as difficult as it might be for you to believe in a God, it's just as difficult, if not more difficult, to believe that that's how we all came to be.
Being as that I was Christian, I do understand.
Yes.
And so, but by no means am I saying that my acceptance of more of an atheist lifestyle now is like, now I don't think about it. No, I kill myself with thinking about it too much, and it's awful, and it's really, really awful sometimes. But I've gotten through it, and I feel like I'm stronger now in this way because there are some other aspects of the Christian faith which really get me going in the wrong direction.
Well, that's not good. But I do have a question. How do you think that everything, like, how did Earth even come to be? The Big Bang Theory, is that what you believe in?
Yeah, as far as you can tell. You can actually look at it, by the way.
Yeah, I've done a little research on it too, but Big Bang Theory, obviously for any the foundation of anything is what, time, space, and matter, right? And
the foundation for our reality. Yes.
Yeah, for time, space, and matter. And those are the Trinity, the foundation, and within each of those is its own Trinity.
Science would actually suggest that it's not just that, and I get those are the things that we can right now that we can see. So yes, but also that science has come up with like a lot of other things, essentially dark antimatter, which is in fact most of the universe that you see would be like 10% is all we can register. But those are all theories. As far as the universe? Yeah, those are all theories, though. Those aren't something you can just go, oh, let me test for antimatter in this room. No, there's no way to do that. So technically, yes, you're correct that there's the trinity of those three.
Yes, and what I was getting at is that if you believe in the Big Bang Theory, then you can't create something out of nothing. So you have to have time, space, and matter. You have to have something to create something else. You can't just have nothing and something occur. And okay, so the Big Bang Theory, it supposedly explains how things were created, how everything started, how the universe started. And it says that it started with a flash of light, correct?
I would say that that's a
And
little bit more interpretable. I would say that yes, but only as a byproduct of the chain reaction that happened. There was
but how
something
is
else
this
going
chain
on.
reaction? How does this chain reaction happen out of
You're
nothing?
right.
There
No,
has to be something of time, space, and matter.
this is
And the
that's the
only
thing that held
thing,
me back the most, and I think that there's other aspects in unison with this one that really make me not be Christian. Uh, yes, I'm gonna just let you continue. Yes, a flash of light.
okay. And in Genesis 1:3, what does it say? And God said, let there be light.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
yes, it
In the beginning was the
says,
Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. How do you speak?
what?
How do you speak?
With words?
So that would suggest that there was something before light, that God would be before light. So I don't know what God is, but God has something to do with communication.
Yeah, well, God is a deity and he operates outside of
Mm-hmm.
time, space, and matter. Therefore, he created it, is what I'm trying to get to, is that this
I
flash of
guess.
light that the Big Bang and the Big Bang Theory actually was proposed by a Roman Catholic in the 1920s who used it as a way to explain how God created things. He
Sure, yeah.
didn't come up with the theory
He believed in evolution.
to disprove a God.
He believed in evolution.
No, he literally thought of this theory to explain how God created things. He
Could
didn't
have
come
just
up
been a
with
cool
this theory to
title
disprove
that was taken over
disprove
by the
God.
scientists.
Possible.
By the way, I'm an idiot. I feel like everyone. I don't know what I'm talking about. So when I say this sort of stuff, I'm not ever trying to disprove you necessarily. I'm just trying to poke at your explanation, see what holds and what doesn't in my eyes.
And that's fine. I don't mind having
Yeah,
this conversation.
it's
Like I like
I
having conversations
of
like
course,
this.
of course. I love having conversations like this. It's just I never want it to seem like I'm being mean, you know.
No, I'm
If
not
I am,
taking
please let me
it
know
that
because
way
I
at
don't
all.
I really don't want to be.
No, I'm not taking it that way at all.
Cool, cool.
I mean, you're asking for my point of view, I'm giving it, and I'm
Absolutely,
taking your point of view and I'm hearing what you have to
absolutely.
say and seeing it from your view as well.
Yeah, and one day maybe
So,
I'll change my mind, but it's as far as I'm concerned that it's pretty solid at the moment. Yes, a flash of light. The God. So using that train of logic, that would be let there be light. What was next? Heavens and the earth, I think.
yes, I
Actually, I'm
believe
gonna
so.
look it up because I really don't want to get it wrong.
I'll
Let me
agree
pull
with
up
it.
Chrome real quick. Christian first days. First seven
Yeah, so
days. I
what
like
was
that
it?
he
In the
made it in
beginning,
seven
God
days.
created heaven and earth.
Is that important or is that
So
just arbitrary?
it's funny because I don't believe there's a lot of figurative language that's used in the
Yeah,
Bible.
a
I
lot
don't
of
believe a
figurative
lot of
language.
what's in the Bible is to be taken literally. And just as
Okay.
so that is the same thing as far as like in the Bible, it says one day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years
Mm-hmm.
is as one day. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, the 6 days could technically, or 6 or 7 days could be 7,000 years. I feel like that's again a
Mm.
figurative speech.
So
So
the one
I don't
thing,
think it was a
so
literal
the interesting thing
six,
about
7 days.
Christianity is not the interesting thing, but one of the interesting things about it is that even in Christianity, nobody agrees. So there's a lot of different interpretations about what the Bible
Oh yeah.
means, and it usually is just kind of here's some smart people that talked about some really complicated things. You get to pick what you want, and that is both a great thing, and I think it's probably the right way to do it, but also really scary that we don't actually know the right answers.
Yes.
And that's
It
another
is. I
reason why
feel
I struggle with Christianity. It's that because it's so interpretable, I don't really know which how would you even be able to choose which one is the one because nobody in the Christian faith, as far as I was concerned, believed that Jehovah's Witnesses were going to go to heaven. But then again, a lot of people probably do. Are they? I
I
have
mean,
no
I believe
clue.
anybody who believes that Jesus came and died on the cross for our sins and rose again in three
Hmm.
days, you're going to go to heaven. I don't care what walk
Hmm.
of life you come from.
How
If
about
you believe
Mormons?
that, you're going to go to heaven. If they believe
They
that
believe
Jesus
that, but they
came,
also believe that they're going to get a planet when they die.
that they're going to get a planet.
Mm-hmm. They're going to rule over their own planet. Are they going to get a
I
planet?
mean, I don't know because I think there are things in the Bible which I feel like the most like the foundational aspects of the Bible, that there's a God, that Jesus came and died on the cross, like those important things, that if you are saved by him, or if you're saved you're going to go to heaven, there's a heaven and a hell, those are very like those are made clear to us. And I don't feel like everything in the Bible is made to be understood by us, because people spend their whole lives studying the Bible and tearing it apart and learning the language that it originated from and reading it in that language
Mm,
too. And even then, nobody fully understands everything the Bible encompasses. But I think that God made it in a way where the foundational, the most important things that you need to get out of the Bible are made clear to us. And
mm,
then, yes, the other parts, they are up for how you interpret it. But I
mm,
don't think but that's, I feel like, because I don't want to say it's not important, but it's because God allows for it to be up to interpretation, because the
mm.
main things, the most important things, he has made clear to us.
Yeah, really interesting. Like that's I think that that would be a that is a great explanation of the core of Christianity, for
Yeah.
sure. The other things that but back to the creation list. As much as I'd like to say that point is solid, and that it's a really good point, it kind of falls apart when you talk about the rest of the things. Um, for instance, light, atmosphere, firmament. So the earth was created, and then the atmosphere around the earth. Easy. Dry ground, and then plants sprung up from the dry ground, and then the sun, moon, and stars.
Mm-hmm.
So to point out that yes, light started first, and then also skip over the next 3 days, is a little bit interesting, because I kind of don't think that the atmosphere and the ground and the earth and then the dry ground and plants were made before the sun and the moon and the stars. Maybe the moon, definitely the moon actually, but not the sun or the stars. So that's another thing where it's like that right there hung me up, or hangs people up a lot, so much so that I can't. I think it's a pointless point. It's not that I'm
But
trying to be rough, but it doesn't really matter that
is
happened to be
God
true.
not light? He's the brightest
Sure,
light, that
sure.
where even when we go into
Mm-hmm.
heaven,
Yeah,
it's going to be hard for us to look upon him.
is
So,
assuming
okay,
there's a
maybe
heaven.
the sun
Yes.
was, yes. So even though he maybe in the order it was created, it doesn't make sense, because in order for plants to grow, there has to be sun. If he's light
Yeah. Plants
and
became
he is,
before the sun, though. Came before
huh?
sun. Day
That's
three,
what I'm
dry ground
saying.
and
But
plants came
he's the
before the
light.
sun.
But he's the light. He's the sun in the situation.
That's an
But
interesting
even
explanation.
regardless, if he's a deity, he can create
Mm-hmm.
life. He can keep the plants alive without a sun. He's
Yeah.
God.
Uh, I guess you could say that that would be a suggestion that science does not always agree with the Bible.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of
Again,
really
there's a
getting at
big
here. There's
faith.
some.
You know what I mean?
So faith is an interesting thing. So yes, you're correct. Absolutely. Well, the main thing, the first thing that made me struggle with the Christian faith was this interesting aspect of a real thing that Christians struggle with internally and don't know how to help and don't know how to fix, because it's kind of complicated, is blind faith. Where is the line between I am actually considering what I'm saying or what I'm believing, and I'm just kind of following along what's written in this book? And I think that that is a constant struggle that every Christian goes through, and everyone has to really come to terms with that concept, the idea that you're going with emotions, and you are just going with emotions, and that's where I think it is probably the thing that pulls people out of Christianity the most.
And I understand that, because even me having as strong a faith as I do, I can't say that I haven't doubted in the
Of
past.
course,
But
you doubt
I
now,
feel like,
and that's not
huh?
something you doubt now, and that's not something we can deny. Right? That's a written into the Bible kind of thing. That's You're gonna have doubts. Period. You will continue to have doubts. Period. If you don't,
Yeah,
then
I
you're
mean,
being blind faith, and that's blind faith.
yes, yes. And I agree with that. I'm sure in the future I will have doubts, or I will
Mm.
continue to, but at the same but I feel like whenever I have doubts, whenever I feel like I'm straying away,
Mm-hmm.
God always brings me back. He always
Yeah,
shows me something that restores my faith.
it's
And
so
I
lovely, that
feel like I
feeling.
have this connection, and I know, obviously, you being Christian, I'm sure you've had the same thing. So it's hard for me with what I've experienced in my life and what I feel like he has shown to me, and just the peace
Mm-hmm.
that I have
It's
from
complicated out there.
believing and believing in him and the peace that he gives me.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me. It would be impossible for me not to believe, but I know that's not the case for everybody, and I
Mm.
understand.
Yeah, so that would be what I would consider blind faith. Not that I'm saying that you're wrecked by it, and not that I'm even saying that you're wrong. I think that if you don't accept that the possibility that you could be wrong, then that's where people just kind of spiral off into to these kind of really messed up paths. It's you grab onto one thing that because if you can believe it about Christianity, and you can believe it about something else. If you believe 100% this is the way it is, period, done. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Then that means there's something else in your life, probably, and I'm just bullshitting, but
Yeah.
probably that you're doing the same thing, because that would be to me consistent. So in your life, correct, you believe that God is the Christian God is the way to go. Then there might be another thing where you also believe that, and then this is another topic that we can dip into that I don't know your feelings on. A lot of people, especially it seems like Christians, struggle with the vaccination thing. I don't know what your
Yes.
feelings are on it, but a lot of them lean in on that they do 100% with every fiber of their being believe that vaccines make it extremely likely, or at least a whole lot more likely, that your child's going to obtain essentially autism from the vaccination itself. And that's an interesting one because I don't know what your opinion is, and I'll get it in a sec. I think that that's wrong. I think that vaccinations are 100% totally valid.
I
Um,
think vaccinations are a good thing.
mm,
But I don't, but I have read some, obviously, about, doctors and people who believe, who have seen, okay, this child was perfectly fine the last time I saw them. They got their vaccinations this last time and came in and they're a completely different child.
very
And
interesting.
I mean, that's just a very vague
Mm-hmm.
example because I
Every
read this book
time.
a while ago. And like vaccinations, like I said, are a good thing. They have prevented a lot
Mm-hmm.
of diseases, and they are a good thing. But
I think the roll of the dice
from
is
what
pretty
I have,
easy that it's good.
huh?
I think rolling the die is usually the right choice. Getting the
Yes, and
vaccination, even if it is scary.
yes, and from what I've learned is that vaccinations are studied individually. They aren't studied when they are administered together.
Hmm.
And that's where the fear comes from, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
people get hung up on why they are bad, because we're administering, with kids, two, three, four vaccinations at one time, which
Interesting.
haven't been studied
On a
in
young
that manner.
body where lots of
Yes,
things are going
and
on.
yes, so I have, through my own research and just to be careful with my son, in the beginning, I wasn't really that educated on that. I hadn't really looked into that. So I was just getting his vaccinations as he was supposed to, according to the schedule. Now I get them, he still is vaccinated up to date, but I get him one at a time. I don't do more than one, just for the sake of, you never know what can
Yeah,
happen,
that's
because
that's
everybody's body reacts differently to
that is
things.
such a good compromise. I can't tell you
Yeah.
how great of an idea that is.
Yes. And so,
That's
I
an
mean,
I'm
he's re
recognizing something that I actually is proven to, or not proven, but is reported to be true. Um, that's recognizing that that's true and still going through with the other part, which is more beneficial for the whole society.
Yes, and I think
The
these
actual vaccination
vaccinations, like
itself.
the basic ones, are good. Like I said, in preventing the disease. Do I think that there's probably some that are unnecessary? Yes. But at the same time, like I said, I'm just going to take precaution and I'm
Mm,
just going to get him one at a time. If that's what they're
that's
saying,
fair.
possibly like causes the autism, is multiple
Mm-hmm.
vaccinations all at one time. It's a lot on a little body, and it hasn't been studied.
Mm.
So that's the how I take on
Yeah,
that,
man.
or my take on that. And
Hell
but
yeah.
if we're going to talk,
Kudos.
but talking about the COVID vaccine,
Yeah.
I won't be
That one,
getting that.
you won't?
No, I will not be
Yeah.
getting that.
No, I hear that it's there's some of the trials that some people have been getting some sort of issue with it, having an issue with
And
it.
there's a lot of people that
I
I'm
believe that
hearing that
still the
are
roll of the
coming
die is
out.
better, but it's true.
Yeah, well, I feel like if you're healthy, that it's not necessary. I feel
Well, I
like
already got
it's,
COVID, so I went through it. I'm probably not gonna get the vaccine, but
and I did too. So,
yeah,
and I feel
but
like if you're a healthy person, I don't feel like it makes sense to put yourself at risk with a vaccine
right.
that hasn't, like, the long-term effects haven't been studied
Hmm.
thoroughly, because there hasn't been time for that.
Yeah.
And if you are healthy and you don't have any other comorbidities, you're not in the age group that is at high risk, like, the elderly, then I don't think it's necessary for you to get the vaccine. If
Mm.
you are someone who has an autoimmune disease or you're an at-risk um, group, then I understand, yeah, maybe you want to get that to protect yourself, but I don't feel like it's necessary for every person to get this, which is what's being pushed. And like I said, it just hasn't been studied enough for me.
Mm.
Maybe 5, 6 years down the road, when we know more about the vaccine, I might reconsider it. But at the moment, I
Sure.
don't feel like it.
No, that's fair. And plus, there's a lot of people that probably need it before me.
Exactly.
There's a
There's
whole
people
lot
who
more
really
people.
do need it.
I mean, I guess I do work in the grocery store business, so maybe I am higher on the list, but because I'm,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
more likely to get it or pass it. I still think the roll of the die is in most cases, if not all cases, better when it comes to vaccines. Even if you believed it was like I don't think it's a 1% chance, but even if you believed it was 0.1%, which is actually kind of a high number, I still think getting the vaccine and then monitoring afterward is still the best choice, because I think it's really unlikely that the mixing of those serums is what causes autism. I think that people get so scared when it comes to having a child that struggles with something like that you look for how did this happen, when really it's not something you should really worry too much about. You should be focusing on how the future is going to go. But naturally, the inclination is to do your research if it's happened already, and then those people who are the most intense about it, the ones who have had kids who've gotten autism or became autistic or noticeably autistic after a certain amount of time, they got scared, did a shit ton of research, more than you can even imagine, by the way, I assume, because that's just how it goes. And because of that intensity and that level of fear and work, that kind of went out into society, and now there's that idea won't die. Um, that's what I believe about it. Vaccines are the way to go, but it's complicated because I was listening to Joe Rogan actually, and he was talking to a podcaster who said the same things you're saying.
It's hard
It's been
because
reported that
I'm
that's
sure
the way it happens.
and yes, because for me, I find it weird to think that you can have a child who's born perfectly normal,
Mm-hmm.
healthy, everything's fine. You get them their vaccinations, and all of a sudden, one day, they're all of a sudden a different person. And now all of a sudden, they
Mm.
have autism.
Well, here's a
I
bigger
don't like
question. Do
it.
you think that non-vaccinated kids could possibly get autism?
Yes, but I feel like, I mean, I haven't done enough research to really speak on it, but I feel like if you are going to get or you have autism and you're born with that, signs of autism show early, from like in while you're trying to hit those developmental milestones. You're seeing those signs and symptoms. You're not seeing it after a year and a half and everything's been fine, and now boom, something happened
Hmm.
and now you all of a sudden you have autism.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
I think that that's absolutely valid. I think it's more of a perception thing for me, for parents, because that's a lot of pressure. And I think that it's really overblown how likely you are to, even if it is true, and like the cases that everyone talks about are true. I think that the sheer likelihood of it happening to your child from this reason is so low that I kind of just couldn't dismiss it most of the time. But maybe I'm wrong for doing so.
Well, and I understand that, but at the same time, you might maybe think differently when you have your own child, because I had heard those same things before, and
It's always
you just
worth looking
dismiss it. You're like,
into.
whatever. And then you have a child and you
Hmm.
love that child more than anything on this planet,
Right.
and you would never want
Absolutely.
anything to happen to them. So you
Yeah.
always err on the side of caution. You always want to protect
Hmm.
them from everything.
I
So even if
watched.
there's this thing that people are saying that might seem a little ridiculous, if there's even a 0.1% chance that something can happen, I'm gonna err on the side of caution.
Dude, I watched this really, really fucking good movie the other day, and it's about parenting, and I would freaking love for you to see that. I will send you at least the name of that movie, so maybe you could look it up and someday watch it, because it was about process of parenting, and it was about these two higher up liberal. They were professors of their categories. I think she was a psychologist and he was a some other sort of psychologist, and they were both doctorates. And they presented to the board an idea where they would take. She was also pregnant, and they were going to adopt two other children, look at their background, and raise a child that is the opposite of what their background would suggest that they were going to do. They were going to take a really unintelligent family that was just a line of idiots the whole way down, terrible people, idiots, and they were going to take that baby and raise it to be a genius. And then they took two other their child and then another boy and did the same thing with them. They were going to raise them opposite of what their heritage would suggest, and it was so good. And that's just the premise, and then how the movie plays out is amazing. And I would love for you to see that.
Totally. I would be interested to watch it.
There's a scene, and I was just thinking about the intensity of being a mother. There's a scene where these guys in suits came in a helicopter to their house in the boonies, and they said, "We're going to take away your kids. We're going to stop the program." And as they were trying to take off and leave, she comes out with the wood chopping axe, walks up to the helicopter, and just seals it right into the side of it, and then walks away. And I was like, "That's
that 1,000% would be me."
Absolutely, nobody threatens to take your child. Not one. Not. No. Mama Bear comes out, and Mama Bear is a real person.
Yeah, and they ain't playing.
No, exactly, and I just I love that, because like that's who raised us. That beast, that little part of every mother, right? It raised every one of us, most likely.
You have that instinct to just protect your children.
Yeah,
and
instinct.
You do whatever you have to.
Mm-hmm. Instinct for sure.
Crazy.
Great movie. Have you watched any movies recently?
What movie did I watch just the other night? I feel like, okay, it's totally like pregnancy brain. I can't remember like what I did 20 minutes ago.
No, it's adult brain. It's just aging.
Yeah, probably adult brain, and then pregnancy doesn't help. Good
point.
We watched this movie. It's actually a Disney movie. I'd never seen it before, but it's called Safety. Have you ever seen it?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, it's like based on
Disney
a true
Plus?
Story. Huh?
Disney Plus?
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. It's called Safety, and it's not like a cartoon movie. It's like a real movie, and it's about. I'll just give you like a little bit of background. It's based on a true story, and it's about a football player who gets a scholarship to a college, and he came from a very, very like poor background, and ends up having to try to take care of his little brother while trying to tackle school and football and all this stuff. It's a really good movie.
One of those. I love those movies about
one of the feel good movies. It's really good though.
Disney has this movie. We watched it like a couple months ago, about when Google or Apple, what was it called? Disney Plus first came out. It's called That Darn Cat, and it is an older movie, and it is really, really good.
I'll have to look it up.
Yes, please. I think it's really underappreciated how good that movie was.
I'll definitely look. I feel like I've heard about it, so maybe. I'll look into it.
I love Disney. I think the saddest thing about everything closing down is that there are Disney fans, like really like crazy popular or crazy intense Disney fans that can't get their Disney fix right now.
Oh, I know. People, it like boggles my mind, because I've been to Disney once or twice, and I don't really see the fascination with it, but people literally go 4 times a year every single year and like enjoy it and have a blast every time, and I just like can't handle the lines, and there's so many people. I just can't. No,
it's not for me. Like, first of all, I do love Disneyland, but I would never go there more than maybe twice a year, if that, like, that's pushing it.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I'll go there again for like my children, obviously, but it's not somewhere that I would ever choose to go myself.
Yeah, and it's cool, it's fun, but like I'm more excited for when I take my kids.
Yeah. Maybe I just, every time I went, I probably went during like the wrong times, where it's like the busiest times of the year, so it was just frustrating.
No, I think it's like
because people say, oh, you got to get like the fast pass, and you got to go during the non-busy times of the year during school time.
Spend more money to enjoy better.
Yeah,
which
apparently.
is like a really kind of a sketchy model.
That's how it goes.
That's how those people like it, though. The people who are like actual big fans of the park would definitely say that to you.
Oh, for sure.
But the fast pass is only cool when there's a lot of roller coasters, and I guess that there's a bunch of fun rides at Disneyland, but none of them are intense. Like not many of them are intense like roller coasters. Do you like
No, and I
those?
like intense. I love
Yes.
intense coasters. That's my thing.
Yes. That's the
Like
way to
Magic
go.
Mountain. I've
Yes,
been there
Magic Mountain's
once.
so good.
So good.
What
I've
is
been
it?
there once and it
Tatsu?
was amazing.
Tatsu's the one that like goes throughout the whole park and where like you're a dragon. Oh
Oh,
no, X2 where you're in a chair and you're spinning the whole time.
yes.
Oh my
Yes. And
god.
it like you go through this
Oh.
part where just burst of fire just comes out on both sides.
It's
Yes,
so
so good. I
good.
went on that ride 2 or 3 times. It
Dude,
was amazing.
I would definitely get a fast pass to go on that a few times a day.
For sure. Yeah, I would definitely go to Magic Mountain. That's more my thing.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, I love Six Flags. They're hurting too. They can't even open.
I know. I'm ready for things to go back to
Me
normal.
too. How is it in where do you live? You're in California still, right?
Yeah, so I live
Yeah.
literally like 5 minutes from the Sacramento airport.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that last part. What'd you say?
Oh, you're fine. I live like 5 minutes from the Sacramento airport. So I live in somewhere not called Natomas, but it's boring.
Mm.
I'll tell you, I'm not a fan of where I live. There's nothing to do here, and obviously it makes it even worse when everything's shut down.
Justin like
Um,
it?
no, hates it
Oh, then
just as much as
move.
I do. Which is why, oh, we are. As soon as I'm done with nursing school, we're moving to
Oh,
Idaho.
that's right.
That's why we keep going there. So I'm stuck here until I'm done with nursing school, which I graduate next April. So
Oh, I'm happy for you.
almost there. Thank
How many
you.
years has it been since this
I
program
just
started?
finished my first year.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
so I have just like a year and 3 months to go.
Mm. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so almost halfway done.
The school that you're gonna use next time is it good? Is it like a nursing school program? Like a good program?
Yeah,
Sorry.
the school that I'm in right now, yeah, I'm in it's a technically it's a 3 year program, but my program was shorter than that because I had prerequisites that I transferred over. But it's a private nursing college in Sacramento called Chamberlain. But yeah, I like it. It's been nice because they've been able to keep the program going during the pandemic where other nursing programs have had to shut down because they haven't had the means to be able to keep classes going. So I'm definitely thankful for
Mm.
that.
Well, it's been an hour and 12 minutes. I think I'll call it here. For the
Okay,
last
sounds
question,
good. Okay.
which of your 10 hand fingers is your favorite?
My left ring finger,
Cute. You want to say why?
right? Because it's got my ring on it and it
Mm,
just signifies marriage to my husband, who I love very much.
that's a great finger. Good choice.
Thank you. I'm surprised you didn't ask me a question. I totally thought you were going to.
That was a question. What's your
I
favorite
know.
finger?
No, I thought you were going to ask about a specific topic that my
Oh, do
sister
you
told
want?
me
Oh,
about.
you know what I didn't talk about? Actually, we could keep going.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about politics at all?
Sure, let's go down that road, right?
Yeah, sure. Hell yeah, let's do it. Um, let's go with on the pH scale, 0 to 7 being like, 0 being the most liberal possible, and 14 being the most right leaning possible, most conservative possible, and 7 being pH water U or 0. I'm sorry,
Got
uh,
it.
right down the middle. Where would you find yourself?
Probably like a 10 or 11.
All right, right in the middle, in the solidly conservative, maybe slightly in the direction of conservative.
Yes.
I like it. Interesting. I would still count myself as on a pH scale of 0 to 14, 8.
An 8.
So it's
So
like
you
center
still
leaning
lean
right.
that way, but you're more
Mostly
towards.
because of the core views on those really come down to some main topics.
Yeah,
I for the life of me can't accept any form of abortion outside of the
absolutely.
two obvious um, uh, holdups. I cannot for the life of me think why people think it's okay. There's
Yes,
no
I
way.
agree.
There's no way that I cannot look at that as a human life that you're taking,
Yes,
and I hold that
100%.
very deeply. And it's not that I've not considered the other side. It really does make sense. It really for them comes down to the choice between choice of freedom of choice. What are you telling me that I am able to do with my body, And I do believe
Yes,
that that is a really big deal, and I'm not really trying to. I don't want to make it not about that. I understand it, but at the same time, what trumps that is that a human life?
absolutely.
And
And
I don't think
the
it's a low hanging heart. I say, yes, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to see this through. You don't have to do
hmm,
much. We'll make it. We'll give you we'll make it free for you, but you are gonna have to see the whole 9 months. That's what I would say. Unfortunately.
absolutely. I feel like there should be if someone is not allowed to have an
Mhm.
abortion, if we say that's the
Yeah.
thing, then there should be more support for the people who are doing that. The only time I ever believe that an abortion is okay is only if the pregnancy will kill the mom,
That is,
because in
I
the end it
agree.
would
I
kill both
absolutely
people.
agree. I would
Medical
also,
necessity.
I think that conservatives should usually concede the next suggestion. That's when the pregnancy was from rape. I agree that it's still a moral issue, but I think that as far as politics go, I think that that should be what you're fighting for right now. At least that. Say I don't agree
Yes,
with it, but
rape and
I want to,
incest.
yeah, exactly, rape and incest. I want to work with
Yes.
you that yes, that child does deserve to live. I am going to work with you and say that you don't have to.
Yes. So I feel like there's very special cases where I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be okay, but absolutely agree that it's not okay, because in the majority,
Mm-hmm.
it's just because people aren't being responsible for their own sexual health and they're
Most
using
of
it
the
as
time.
a
Most
backup
of,
birth
well,
control,
I
and
don't
that's
believe
not
that, but I do agree with you.
yeah.
I think that it's lack of they're really acting stupid. They're not really behave themselves. They have no fallback plan in how much they're having sex. It's
Yeah.
basically if I did, I'd get an abortion is what their fallback plan is. And it's like, holy shit, you should have more than a plan than that. You should be adamantly on the pill, adamantly using NuvaRing, which is even easier than the pill. My Piper
Or
uses
have some
that,
plan B for backup if you're
and
unsure.
dude, you can
Like,
just go buy that for $50. You don't need it on hand. It's at every
I know,
CVS for
right?
$50.
Like, or just be responsible for your sexual health,
And
okay?
that's the biggest one. Be responsible, and that means birth control, hardcore.
Yes.
And yes, it is on the woman a lot, but also the man, when you're, especially when you're new to dating someone, you need to make sure that you have a condom on. And yes, it's
Yeah,
not as
both
good.
of
Every
you.
guy knows, but
Yes,
use it anyway. And then when you actually get comfortable with this person, then you can actually talk about how you actually want to go forward.
exactly.
But
Totally.
that's such a thing you're not supposed to say, because then someone who has had an abortion will tell you, "Oh, I had to for this reason." I'm like, I don't want to disregard that you went through some deep shit that I'm never
Yeah.
gonna have to do, and that I have never, I've never been through a rape. I've never experienced that. I've
Yes.
never been molested, and so
Yes.
don't want to. I don't want it to seem like I'm not thinking about you, that I'm not considering you. I am. I am. It's just the two factors, one is more important. Your right to
Yeah.
choose how your body goes is absolutely out, with this one exception, this one little asterisk, is 100% something I believe in.
Yeah, totally. And everyone has to follow their own moral code, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just
The
it
problem I
is.
think with that is it accidentally probably became a symbol of liberalism. It became
Yes.
of I'm supporting women by doing this, and kind of went away from talking about I'm supporting life.
Yes.
And because it became that, then all these people are saying that a woman's right to choose is more important than someone's life, and I don't know how you can say
It's
that.
hard to agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that that's one thing that's gonna probably not change either, at least at its core. I think that someone is gonna believe in the freedom of choice, no matter what. And so
Yeah.
I think the conversation is really where it is, because you and I had to make it. Even I suggested making a compromise, but the most Christian people, or the most conservative people, and the most liberal people are always going to say, all the way up till birth, and on the other side, in no case, even with rape or incest, even then you have to keep it.
Yeah,
And then that is battle is always going to happen, and I think that the only way forward is to talk about it.
absolutely. And I feel like the extreme of both sides is always nobody identifies with them
Mm.
because they act out, you know what I mean? As we've seen, they act out, and either side
People
doesn't
do,
agree with
unfortunately,
that.
but it's rough. The worldview doesn't seem very consistent, and I think that's a big deal.
Hmm.
And I think the Liberal Party is like run by people that are so lukewarm about everything that it's just hard for them to get off the ground with anything.
Yeah.
It seems like the
Absolutely.
Republicans, I'm not saying they're perfect, but the Republicans are at least together and unified on some level. I never liked Donald Trump. I never hated him, and I didn't really understand why people did so much. And I think that people were looking for a reason to get him out of office because they didn't like some of the things that he said, and he did say them. But at the same
And
time, I don't think he's Satan like you're telling me he is. He's not a good guy. I get
yes.
it. I understand. I agree. But at the same time, I I don't care about all of that because none of it is so egregious that I can't handle it.
Yeah, and that's just an agenda
It
that I
is an
feel like
agenda.
the left has, because
The right has its agenda too, and we
everyone's
can't
just,
ignore it. But at the same
oh
time,
no, they absolutely
yeah,
do. I don't, politicians in
politics in
general is,
general.
all politics is corrupt.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
But yeah,
hard to ignore that. It's really
it's very,
corrupt.
yeah, it is. And I feel like a lot of the reason why people hate Trump and why there's this like, I feel like almost a huge like effort to try to get him out of office and make him seem like this terrible person is just because he's not like any other president we've had. He goes against the grain. He doesn't sit there and he's not people's
Yeah,
puppet and isn't going to do what they tell him to do. And people don't
he's.
like that.
I think that he's not that much of one, but he's definitely still a rich bureaucrat or a rich corporation guy. So I think it's hard to say that he's got a character of gold. So he's in somebody's pocket, even if only in certain ways. But I don't think that he's maliciously there. I think that every time that someone calls him racist, I'm so like, you missed the point. If you were gonna get mad at him about something, tell me about a policy that he passed that you were so upset with. But all of them weren't that bad, or they were good, and
Exactly. And
most of the
I
time. And I'm
hate
not saying
when
all the
people
time,
say,
but a lot of the
yeah,
time, at least, you'd have to give me that most of his decisions are the decisions I want a leader of the nation to be doing, at least in the
yes.
main
And
sense.
honestly, Trump has given up a lot of his wealth in order to become president. He
I don't
had
even
to. He
want to
didn't
talk
take a
about his
salary.
finances. He was rich. That's really all that matters.
Yeah, he was, but I was just saying he did give up a lot of that. And but
It's
to
with
comment on the racist
yeah,
thing, I'm so tired of hearing that
it's
because
just
they
oversaid.
take a lot of things out of context to make it seem like he's racist when in fact when you tell people actually he's done this, 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 and this for the black community and this, they're like, don't want to hear it. But for instance, Joe Biden, who's literally said blatantly racist things,
Yeah,
they just put that to
but
the
okay,
wayside because
for
they're
but
so obsessed
not
with hating Trump.
right. Not really in Biden's defense. He's kind of an idiot and also can't can't do the job of the presidency. You know what I mean?
No, and
He's
I don't.
I don't think that he's going to be able to hold it together well throughout while he's here, and he definitely is.
And it's funny because he's not really going to get the chance, in my opinion. I mean, I
Interesting.
know, like I said, you don't
Trump didn't win.
really, obviously, don't believe in God anymore,
Mm-hmm.
really. But I've been following. Justin and I both have been following a prophet, which there's a jillion prophets out
Oh,
there,
there's a
but
jillion
I know
prophets.
a lot of them are false. I understand,
Oh,
and
all
who
of them
knows if what
in my eyes.
I don't know if all of them are, but I think a majority of them are. But we've been following one, and who's to say that what he's saying is going to come true? But everything he has said thus far has. But I'm just going to
Mm,
share this with you, just
sure,
to
gotta
talk
share the
about it.
good news.
Yeah. So, it might not be good news for a lot of people, but he says that
Probably most people, if
I
the
mean he
Bible's
said there was going
correct.
to be chaos, yeah, in the last couple weeks, and there has been chaos, and he's been saying this whole time is that there's going to be a swift act of justice that's going to be backed by military, and
Mm.
at the end of all this, Trump is still going to be president for the next 4 years. And I know saying that sounds crazy because tomorrow's the inauguration. But in my mind, this all is still coming to pass because from what I've learned, what I've researched, is that there's actually evidence and proof of the corruption that a lot of these big
Oh man.
names have participated in. And I'm sure you saw that there's going to be what 35,000 ish National Guard that's going to surround the inauguration.
Yeah.
So
Well,
in
I
my
mean, it's
mind,
gonna need it.
yeah, well, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this prophet is saying that there's going to be a
Hmm.
swift act of justice by the military.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, maybe this means that those National Guard are going to be the people that are going to be arresting a lot of the people that are in this inauguration that are corrupt.
Hmm.
So, anyways, that's what he
That'd be
says.
cool, right?
And yeah, I mean, people probably won't be very happy with Trump being the president for the next 4 years, but
You think that it would be able to survive that? Do you think that it would just be
I
oh,
do.
people aren't going to be happy for the next 4 years, or do you think it's going to be civil war where people are literally saying you uprooted the rightful president?
Well, I think when,
Because I don't
I
think it
mean, the
could survive
prophets,
it. I don't think we could survive as a nation if
I
that
think
happened.
when the evidence comes out, I think it's going to be so damning that you're going to be hard pressed not to believe it. Like it's going to be so
Hmm. If Trump, if Trump
overwhelming of the
wasn't the president,
corruption and things that have gone on.
hmm. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine. Go ahead.
You cut out for a second. You keep going.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that I don't feel crap. Now I don't even know what I was saying.
Will the nation be able to survive this if
Oh,
that happens?
I say yes because I feel like that evidence, like I said, is going to be so compelling that your people are
Here's the
going to be
interesting
shocked.
thing. I was talking to Piper's grandfather the other day. Not the other day, actually, a couple years ago. We went to her grandmother's funeral, and it was lovely. We saw her. It was nice. And then afterward, we went to the person she was married to. No relation by blood, but this was family by, by that way. And he was crazy. And it was really interesting because he was the kind of got crazy where it was like, it was, how like those theories are so intense and like they're like stuff you gotta really focus and do a lot of research on. He was like that all the time. Like there was no off button. It was almost like he was always talking to us like he was considering a conspiracy, because that's what he was. Because he was telling us stuff like on the inauguration or something like that, whatever time it was, on this specific day, Trump is going to wear a gold tie and it's going to symbolize that somebody came back to life.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And the person that came back to life, I think, was Bush Senior or something like that. Yeah, I know. I was like,
Yeah,
what the hell
that's
is
very
going on here?
specific.
But it's funny that that is considered the same kind of stuff as conspiracy theories. Like there's going to be a coup about the with Donald Trump. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
and
That would also be considered a conspiracy theory, and that would also be something that I would consider as a conspiracy theory, that Trump is going to uproot the nation, because there is no way that I can possibly see how our nation would not implode if Donald Trump, after actually losing the election, which is what I believe, that that he would be able to remain president for another 4 years. That
I
no,
know with all the
it
craziness
would
that has
be
ensued the past four
it would be a
years.
really short drop into civil war if that happened. And I don't think even Donald Trump wants to start a civil war over being the president for the next 4 years. When the
And I don't
alternative
think
is
so
just
either.
and the alternative is just that he isn't president for the next 4 years.
Yes, but I mean, like I said, I'm basing it off of what the prophet is saying,
Yeah,
but
so let's
also
talk about
feel
that.
like
What if the prophet is wrong? What happens if Donald Trump actually
if the
succeeds?
prophet is
And
wrong, yeah, if the prophet is wrong, then you know what? Like I said,
is he
I
a
believe
prophet?
Huh?
Is he a prophet still? If he's wrong about this, because that's very
I would probably
specific.
consider I would probably consider not. It is very specific, and he keeps making videos every single day saying, "Yeah,
Mm,
God's still showing me that this is what's going to happen. He's confirming what I'm saying, and all of these things." And I feel he says that this is God's plan. He's going to use Trump, and
mm,
this is going to be kind of like the start of a great revival. Like people are going to see that the only way any of this could have happened is because of God, because it's going to be um that crazy, that something that
yeah,
astounding that's going to happen because
yeah.
it's never happened in history
That would
before.
definitely be astounding. That'd be wild, man.
Right. And the prophet, like I said, he says that it's going to be like kind of a great awakening. Like people are going to come to God because they're
Mm.
going to think, how else could this have happened? But if the prophet
Are you
is wrong,
okay with the war that's going to ensue, where potentially millions of people could die?
no. And I hope that's not going to be the
Do you think
case.
that war crimes would be evidence that perhaps there isn't a God in the way I believe it is?
No,
Do you know in the
because I know
Bible?
people
I'm going to
like,
jump right at the jugular. Come back to Christianity, and I don't mean to be. This is a Bible verse that professionals in the field that the highest people in the churches of their denominations struggle with this question, with this Bible verse.
Okay.
Moses tells the people to go take the city, and they do take the city, and they kill all the warriors, all the fighting men. And then they take everybody back to camp. And then they go, hey, we have everybody as prisoner. And then Moses goes, what the hell did you do? You killed all the men? All right, well, now you're going to kill all the boys. All the young boys. 0 to whatever. No matter what age, you're going to kill all of them. They're all going to
Oh,
die.
yes. Uh-huh.
And then also, you're going to kill all the women who have slept with the man. All anyone who is not a virgin, essentially. And you're going to keep the virgins for yourself. Okay, so let's jump to the worst case scenario, and then let's jump to the best case scenario in my eyes. Worst case scenario, biblically, Moses, the mouthpiece of God, there's no way to say that he wasn't speaking for God at this time of his life. Moses just told these people to take sex slaves as your own, virgin sex slaves. That's worst case scenario. Also, he killed boys, little babies. God commanded the death of babies. That's a little rough. And best case scenario, only God called for the death of babies. That's the only thing.
Are you talking about the death of the firstborn if they didn't put the
No,
blood over
no,
their
I will bring it
doorway?
up to you because I actually was talking about it with Jeremy and Brianna the other day. My phone's off. Hold on, give me a sec. I think it's, what is the verse? Numbers 22, verse 17 and 18.
Okay.
If it's not 20, it might be chapter 30. It's 31. Numbers 31, chapters 22. I'm sorry, chapter 17 and 18.
Okay.
Actually, I'll just look it up on my computer.
Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him. But all the women, children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves.
And that is a really hefty verse.
It is, and
and this
I
is kind of thing.
read...
Before, real quick, before you try to defend this particular verse, know that you are just a person that is trying to interpret the world. This is a hard question to answer, and very likely you might change your mind on this answer because this is not an uncomplicated verse. I just want to remind myself about that because because people take little snippets of what you've said and they go, "This is who you are."
Yes.
And then they pull that they beat you down for it, and that's ridiculous because we know what humans are like. We know that there's no way that you could say that everything that you've ever believed, you can't, at any point in your life, you can't say that I know exactly what I'm doing in every facet of my life. We have to accept that this is a process. And I'm just saying that because I'm probably at some point going to change my mind about this particular verse. But at the moment, that's what I believe.
I mean, it's hard for me to defend that because I'm not even familiar with that story.
Exactly.
But
and I know what
as far as the Bible goes, yes. And as far as the Bible goes, though, granted, some I can't think of how Justin usually puts it, but you take a chapter over a passage and a book over a chapter. So basically don't take just those two verses and take them out of the story that
this is a very important part of the story.
This is
actually probably the biggest part of that story is when God defeats the army and moves more into the promised land.
And I'll have to study that story because I know nothing about it, so I can't even speak on it. But
because
I will definitely look into it.
If you think about why that would be okay at the time, and we don't look at specifically this tribe, we look at all of the people in existence. People would do that to stop lions. They would say, "Okay, we're just gonna fucking wipe them out. We're not even gonna wait to see if they can bounce back. We're gonna kill them all and then take the virgins, and then that's what we get." And I see how people would do that, how that would be helpful. But when you look at this specific religion that we're talking about, now we just had God say that at best, and I'm not even talking about, let's just not even worry about the girls for now. Let's talk about the boys that were killed. You were saying that someone under the age of 1, that's the boy that's in front of us. Someone in the military, it was their job and to go up to this boy, take him, and slit his throat. And you were telling me, if you're saying that that is acceptable, that his death was justified, you were telling me that God himself, on every level, told this man to kill this young child, and that was the right thing to do. And that is where people go, fuck Christianity for this reason, by the way.
And I
There's no
understand that
way that
because it
I
does
could believe
sound,
that you could say that.
yeah, and it does sound horrendous to
Mm-hmm.
even think about taking the life of a child who's innocent, who
No,
has no
it's,
part in.
and
I
justified by
understand.
God is the problem.
Yes, and I understand, and I know a lot of people want, and I'm not trying to justify what
Mm-hmm.
happened, but I know a lot of people want to say, God, God is love. Like, why would
Right,
evil
yeah.
think that? Why would he say that? But God is also a just God, and God
Yeah.
also
Mm-hmm.
comes with love and with wrath. So it's not that Christianity isn't all about flowers and butterflies. There's a lot of brutal things that are in the Bible
Not
that have
justified by
happened.
God, though.
Yes, and like I said, I don't know why that was commanded of them
Mm,
to do that. So I'm going to look into that story
please
because
do. Yeah,
I'm
it's a
genuinely
good one.
curious.
It's a good one that you
I'm
really
curious and I
requires a
will.
lot of like deep thought on this, because I don't know what to do with that one besides say fuck you Christianity. You know what I mean? Or at least maybe
Yes.
you don't know what I mean, but I know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and I
uh,
understand that's a
I
very
think
hard
the
thing to
other
try to come
part,
to.
the other biggest part, besides something like that, that's kind of a minor detail. Let's if you keep your eyes on what Christianity is as a whole, that whole doesn't matter really. The Christianity is literally about the worship of a being that is all good things, all positive
Yeah,
things in existence. So I mean, that itself is such a lovely idea that you can't forget that that is also what we're talking about.
yeah,
I would
I
say,
agree.
in most cases, no, I would say right now, as far as my belief system on Christianity, is that it's more of us a great, and I don't mean this in any small way, an amazing story. And I think that is even what Christians believe, but they don't just believe that it's a great story. I think that it's a mythology like many others. I don't think that that diminishes what Christianity is because of how great the outcome is.
And that's fair, and I think
And the
that's what
complexity of the
that one
stories,
guy
too.
that you follow, that's what he believes as well. He
Jordan
thinks it's
Peterson
a
is not just that one guy that I follow.
I couldn't remember his name.
I don't mean to be rough, but like Jordan Peterson, it was a
No,
cultural movement where it was actually like what I'm saying is not just from me. It's kind of like what a lot of people feel about
no,
why
and I
Jordan
wasn't
Peterson
saying
got
that to be
famous.
offensive. I was
Of
just,
course.
honestly did not remember his name. I have to hear names five
Please,
times to remember them.
if anything from this podcast, Jordan Peterson is amazing. His biblical series is stellar, but I would start at his series on Pinocchio to really get into how he thinks. He's a lecturer at Harvard, and then he worked at the University of Toronto for a long time, and he recorded these breakdowns of the movie Pinocchio, and taking apart all its archetypal elements, which is like the characters, how you can't go any deeper than this character because of these reasons, stuff like that. And that how he thinks on that movie is how he looks at the Bible. And believe me, the Bible is so complex that there is some deep stuff that he talks about there. He does come at it from a biological, like an evolutionary perspective, where he's a psychologist, so he knows a lot of stuff about that. But it's really, really good stuff. Just brain food.
Yeah, I mean, I am not opposed to
Mm-hmm.
listening to stuff like that. I'm always
So
wanting to learn.
the other, okay, since we're still on the topic of religion, what's your stance on what the church believes, and what's your own personal stance on homosexuality?
So obviously, I don't support homosexuality because as a Christian, you can't
Mm,
support that. If you're a true Christian, I don't believe you
I
can.
agree.
But I also don't agree with the churches who shun these people, who discriminate against them, who are hateful towards them, who, you know what I mean, don't, because in the Bible it also says to love thy neighbor. It doesn't say love thy neighbor unless they're homosexual or unless they're this, unless they're that. It just says love thy neighbor. So I think that even if we don't, so as Christians,
Yeah.
even though we don't support um, homosexuality or the act of that sin, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't love these people.
Yes,
Um,
I
so
agree.
that's how I feel about that. And like I said, I get very frustrated with the churches who are rude and
Yeah, Westboro Baptist Church,
hateful.
stuff like
Yes, who
that.
are hateful to those
Yeah.
people because that's absolutely, then that's not Christian of them either.
No.
So you can't pick and choose what you want to follow in the Bible and what you want to
Yeah.
listen to.
You can't
If
redefine
you're
what
going to
treating people with love is.
exactly, you either you can't pick and choose what you think is the right
Mm.
thing to do in the Bible. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? If you're going to be a Christian,
I
you have to
agree.
follow it wholeheartedly.
I agree. I
And I know that's not,
So I obviously, being not Christian, I feel like religion is the single thing that, besides just stupidity, is the single biggest thing that stops people from accepting that homosexuality is a possibility. I think that as a Christian, when I was a Christian, the definition of what homosexuality would be. So I separated it back in the day. I separated it down into, there's the physical act and then there's the attraction. I don't think that it would be fair to say that people choose their sexuality. I don't think that that's fair. I think that would be, even as a Christian, too much to say. But I do think it would be pretty simple to say that the workaround is that physical sin. So to be Christian right now is to believe that a man with a man or a woman with a woman or any anal sex at all is a sin.
Absolutely. I believe
And
that you can have an
physically.
emotional relationship with somebody of the
Mm-hmm.
same sex and love and care for them and have a relationship with them and that be okay. But the physical acts is what's sinful
Yeah, and
and
that's
what
and
is
that's where
not
I
okay
was
in
for a
life.
very long time, and that was acceptable for me, and I didn't really think about it too much. I just accepted that they're not going to work together, and I do believe that the Christianity was never really going to accept homosexuality. Until you start thinking about, okay, so I also believe that any straight person looking at a woman twice is a sin. So essentially, and that's kind of a natural urge too. So I'm not gonna choose. The time I chose to look twice, essentially, and this the second look,
Yeah.
looking on purpose, is lusting after someone, and that would be a sin.
Yes.
Which
Absolutely.
means that that by that definition, homosexual people, a gay man looking at another gay man, has to regret that he looked at a man. For sure.
Yes.
He has to
Hmm.
regret that he looked in a sexual way at the man. So that means he's going to hell because because essentially how I look at death is, from the Christian perspective, is that you're going to sit down at a judgment table from God, and you're going to run over every sin you've ever made, and you're going to go, do you regret this? He's going to go, do you regret this? And he's going to answer, and you're going to answer, yes, I do regret that, because they're all sins, and you have to accept that they're sins to go to heaven. Because denial of them would itself be a sin. Denial that they are, in fact, a sin. And you're going to get to that, homosexual man's going to get to that point, and he's going to say, I lived my life really well. I didn't sleep with any men. I looked once or twice in my life. And God's going to pull up those times, and he's going to put it down in front of you. He's going to say, okay, then, you regret looking at this man twice, and you have to tell me with utmost certainty that only the ones who say that they regret it can go to heaven. Only the ones that say that it was a bad thing to love that person. That means you have to tell me that is a sin. And at a most basic level, I again get to a point where I look at Christianity and I go, I don't know what to say to you, because that is disgusting. That is disgusting that this person is going to burn in hell specifically for that reason. And I cannot accept it. It is not logical in my eyes.
And Justin and I have had that conversation that it's hard to believe that, people who have lived a good life, and that, so for instance, say Hitler, if after everything that he did, he accepted Jesus as his savior and repented for his sins, he was going to go to heaven, but someone who lived a good life, never murdered or even thought about that in entire life, would go to hell. And we've talked about that and how that's hard to believe. And
Mm-hmm.
I am, but we've also talked about different interpretations of hell and what the punishment would be. Is it really you're burning in hell for eternity, or is this something where the burning that is being talked about in the Bible is a purification process, that it's not eternal?
Would it be painful?
Um, huh?
Would it have
Oh,
an
I'm
element of pain in hell?
Oh, yes, I believe so. It says there's going to be
Yeah.
gnashing of teeth. And so, yes, I understand that. But I mean,
So
who knows? Because I don't know how it's going to work in the end. That's part of the Bible, like I said before, that is left up for interpretation.
I don't
that
mean
has a lot of
to. I
figurative
don't mean to
speech
spray
with it.
gasoline on this fire, but
No, you're fine.
okay. Let's say you retain your Christianity for your entire life, and that's fine. And I think that that's good to assume. It's not a problem. And your son, he expresses that he's an atheist now, and and then in 1,000 years, when you're both dead, you're in heaven and he's in hell because that's how it goes. Can
Yep.
you exist in eternal bliss knowing that the child that you created is burning in hell?
I
Because
want to
I think that
say
that would cancel it out, because we were already talking about the maternal instinct about how much you want your child to live and how much you want the best for your child. There's no way that you could ever settle down knowing that your son is burning.
yes, and I agree with that, but from what I've learned in the Bible is that when you go to heaven, that your knowledge of the relationships that you had on earth is
Mm-hmm.
very different in heaven, that you don't necessarily
Hmm.
recognize. Like Justin, I wouldn't know him
Do
as
you
my
know what hell
husband.
is?
Do I know what hell is?
In heaven, do you know what hell is?
Um, no, I'm still very much looking and reading the Bible and studying
No,
it
I'm
to
sorry.
figure
I'm
it out.
sorry. I'm sorry. I meant when a person who is in heaven, do they know what hell is?
Oh, I would assume so,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's an interesting thing. So essentially, because we know what hell is and all things are one at that point, we actually the people who are in heaven can look at what's happening in hell, and that you can
Yes.
actually watch people burn alive and still say that because I'm in so much bliss, it doesn't matter. I'm shocked that that is a thing that can happen. That
Yeah,
I know
and
that
like I said,
the fact the just knowing that it exists is enough to make me question why if even heaven is the right thing, is the
and
right way to go.
yeah, and what you're saying makes sense, and I agree. It's like I said, it's very hard to believe that that's how things are, which I feel like you don't actually know how it's going to be when you die. Nobody does
Mm.
because nobody has died and
But Christians
experienced that
do.
and come back. Huh?
Christians do. Christians would tell
But
you they do.
nobody, yeah, but nobody has actually gone to heaven and been there for a substantial amount of
Mm.
time and come back to earth and
But
told people this is how it is. Granted, in the
Christians
Bible, it
believe
tells
that there
you,
is a heaven or a hell, which means that they suggest that something is going to happen.
yes, no, and I believe that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we don't know what it's actually going, like
But you do
what
know
we're
one
gonna
thing that
know
is
when
going
we're
to
in heaven.
happen. You know that you're going to go to one of those two places, right?
Yes.
So that means you do know something about after death.
I'm saying I know that there's a heaven and a hell and you're going to go one place or another. What I'm
Right.
saying is that I don't
You
know
don't know
that
what
when
that's
I'm in
like.
heaven I'm going to know who's burning in hell. I'm
Mm.
not going to know if I know the people around me. I don't know what are cuz he's going to give us a new mind, body and spirit, or he's going to give us a
You
new
you
body.
think that
He's in
do you think that it's okay that if that so let's say your son did go to heaven, would you want to be with him?
I mean
Would you want to
from
know
where
would you want to know him like you know your husband? Like you
I
know you're
would
a person that I get to interact with in heaven with.
I would
Yeah, so uh,
I want that, but it doesn't
you
mean
would
that
like
that's
God
how
to
it
wipe your
works.
son from your mind if you go to heaven.
I mean, I wouldn't know the difference even if he did.
Right, but
So I
if
would
you're
like
saying that
one
God would do that and that's good.
if that's God's plan and he knows what we are going like what heaven is supposed to be this place where we're going to be eternally happy and he is like it says in the Bible creating a special place for each one of us and if that special place includes me not knowing or having that relationship that same relationships that I did in the world with people in heaven then that's how it is
Hmm.
say if my memory was wiped or whatever when I did go to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know the difference because I wouldn't have the memory of, you know,
Right.
who my son is,
So
who my husband is, who my parents are. So if
because
that's
all
God's
things
intention, that's
right.
God's intention.
Right. Cuz but God did create hell, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so we're a point where we already accepted that in heaven you actually can look at hell, and in heaven you can actually see what's going on with the people in hell, and in heaven you actually know each one of them individually. So, but with this specific person, you would say, oh, I can't see him, and that's okay. I can look at everybody else and see that they're burning alive, and I can be totally fine with the fact that most of the people who in existence who lived went to hell, and I can be fine with that. But I can't be fine with that my son is burning alive. And that's where it's like, oh, well, actually, if you really think about it, I do get it that you have a personal connection with your son, but I don't get it that a whole lot of other people dying is not really upsetting.
I mean, it is upsetting to think about, but like I said, I don't know what my state of mind is, what it's going to be like in heaven.
Right.
Nobody does.
I
I don't
agree
know
with
what
that.
God does to your mind, what he does, what he allows you to know, and what he doesn't let you know. Because even if you're in heaven and you're with him, there's still a lot that you're never going to know, because he only allows you to know, to see, to understand what he allows you to. So I don't know. A lot of these things are very hard to answer. And I feel like there's a lot of things
Yeah, they're really hard to answer.
in the Bible that there's no specific answer for. Just like in the real world, that even science, there's no specific answer. It just is what it is. And so that's how I have to answer that, because I don't know.
Yeah. I think that somehow America forgot about that. Somehow fucking we were like, yeah, if you believe, I'm only going to think about this one thing you said a long time ago, and I'm going to define your entire character based off of this one thing. And I'm like, oh man, that is not the right answer, guys. That's going to lead to a whole lot of fighting. And it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair. There are so many views that people can have. And valid views, not just like color choosing. I mean, like, there could be really long stories based on each decision that they make.
Oh, absolutely. And everybody goes down a different path. Everybody has low, dark times in their life, and you can't say that based on what they did or said during that low moment is who they are their entire life, because that's not fair.
Yeah. Though the world is a little bit tinted, and it's really hard to look at it. It's impossible, actually, to look at it from an objective way while we're here on Earth. There's no way. And that's why this thing that we're doing, that you so lovingly agreed to, by the way. Thank you so much for agreeing to this. No problem. That we get to do that. Sorry, it took me a minute. And we get to do it in this format. Because god dang, if you think that everyone's going to get the right answer. No, that's not going to happen. Everybody needs to talk about it.
Absolutely. Nobody's going to have the right answer or have a specific answer to everything.
I think that we had a great conversation. And as far as this podcast, I think I'll hang up, but I'd love to keep talking with you.
Okay, no problem.
And thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.